Well, hello, good morning, happy Saturday, and congratulations to us all because today is the day that we finally woke up in a world where Metroid Prime 4 Beyond has a release date. This video is going to be posted on Saturday morning, but I am recording it on Friday evening after the Nintendo Direct that aired at 6 o'clock a.m. my time. After my full, long, very stressful, crazy day at work, I am super duper tired, but I knew as soon as I finished my workday, I wanted to make this video because, of course, in the Nintendo Direct that premiered yesterday, as of the date of you watching this video, we got a new trailer, new footage of Metroid Prime 4, which gave us a lot of new details about the game, and then, most importantly, the release date itself. I couldn't be happier with everything that we saw, man. I loved the new footage and trailer, even though it's only like a minute and a half, maybe like 90 seconds worth of actual gameplay in the trailer. I'm happy to have the release date. It's crazy that it's December. I'm sure we'll talk about that as we go through this footage. And even though I would have liked it to be late October or early November, just to play it sooner than later, it's just nice to have the date. And it is still 2025. As I said, we needed to keep our eyes on the month of December because that's where it landed. In the 11th hour of the year, they stuck to their commitment. They're giving it to us in 2025. It's so exciting. And so, I'm not going to waste any more of your time. You know why you're here. We're going to watch this footage. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it. I'm very, very excited because I know it's a little divisive amongst some people, but I loved the trailer and loved what we saw. So let's just get into it and watch this sucker. Okay, this is exciting. Let's jump in to this trailer, the Nintendo Direct motorcycle footage. This is absolutely bananas. Okay. So, we start off on this amazing footage of lightning and these weird towers. And, I'll pause it right away because this is why we do this. I love the look. I love the atmosphere. You can see what seems to be a door down here. I'm all about the rainy, stormy kind of environment. And I don't know what these pillars are. Later in this trailer, we kind of understand a little bit more of these long walkways. We see her riding the bike and kind of jumping from one walkway to another before entering some area that's inside here. And we'll see kind of hints at other walkways that are kind of connecting these things. Maybe that's what we're looking at over here and over here, but it's tough to say. We'll get back into this here. Just looks so cool. If you saw my reaction, this started and I was like, this is going to be Metroid. So here's the bike, right? So this is, I think this is the tire and something coming out of the wheel, or maybe this is where she puts her hand in to steer. It's hard to tell, but we see her basically, yeah, there you go. So she puts her arm cannon and her hand in, and here she goes. So, this is the bike. This is Viola, or Viola. Obviously, at the end of this trailer, when it shows the amiibo figures, we can see that there's one with her on the bike, and it says Samus plus Viola or Viola. Like, I want to call it a Viola, but I feel like it's probably meant to be pronounced Viola, so I think I need to train myself to say Viola. That's what this is. There's a motorcycle. Now, there's so much to say about this. It's already proving to be pretty divisive. Just in the hours since this aired this morning, actually probably about 9 hours from the time that it aired to the time that I'm recording this finally. A lot of people love it and are hyped. I'm one of them. I think it looks so cool because I think I can kind of see the vision of what they're doing with this, but not everyone is totally on board. So that's an interesting piece to this. But personally, just having the bike is so damned cool. And I think it serves as a connection to this suit that she's wearing, which it's worth noting, the suit she's wearing, she's got the psychic mote, the psychic eye, right? So we're past that part of the intro when she makes it to planet Vuros, which, by the way, going back to the beginning, we have to remember, we don't even know where we are. We should be able to assume that this is all after the opening section that we saw from the treehouse footage, where the space pirates are attacking. Samus comes across some Galactic Federation troopers, and she fights the big mech. She fights that big boss, whose name is already now escaping me. And she runs into Psylux, and the artifact activates, and that whole thing plays out. And as far as we can tell, and I've theorized this on other breakdown videos so far, she's going to get transported to planet Vuros. This unknown, I guess I'll say not understood planet. Something mysterious. She gets transported to Vuros, and she has to find a way back. That's basically what the narrator says in the March Direct from 2025. And so I think that the other thing that's mentioned is that on planet Vuros, there is a tree at the center of the area, or the center of the environment. And so what I'm assuming that we see in this trailer, and we're going to see maybe what I think that tree is later, that we see all these different locations, a fireplace, a snowy place, a desert place, whatever this place is with the rain and these big rocky towers. This is probably planet Vuros after she's transported, especially because she does have the eye. She's wearing the suit with the eye on it. If I can go back to a good shot here where we can see that. Right? She's got this. So that's where this is. I just wanted to kind of go over that real quick, and we'll address it again later. We have to remember, these are just the different environments of planet Vuros. Probably. Not definitely, but probably. So I like the idea of the bike because I think they're going to include it in a very interesting way. So now we get to the desert, and I'll let this play. I mean, look, I think this is all fantastic. All this footage, excuse me, looks really cool. I mean, we got a building over here. Now we get some combat. Now, I want to come back to this because what I think is happening is that, you know, the big talk of the town off of this trailer and the desert footage specifically and the bike footage is that maybe the game is open world, or it is open world. And some people are naysaying this idea because when they look at this footage, they're like, oh, look at how big and empty and boring looking this open world, this desert looks. Assuming that A, the whole game is open world, and B, that this is an area that you're meant to, like, actually really explore the same way you would Skyrim or Breath of the Wild or Grand Theft Auto or any of those kinds of open world games. And I think there's a reason the main footage we see of the bike in this reveal trailer revealing the bike to us is in this desert that, yes, is a big open area with not a lot of stuff to do, because I think this is a section that is probably designed for the bike. And the bike is probably designed for these few environments that are this big and open to traverse from one area to another. Maybe replacing, like, flying your gunship from one area to another in Metroid Prime 3, which essentially is just a cutscene and a way to hide loading from one map to another. Or the way elevators do the same thing in Metroid Primes 1 and 2. That maybe instead of hiding loading behind those cutscenes, an elevator or the gunship, you are given access to this bike, and you'll come across these big lands, and obviously we see this building, and I'm sure that there are things to do, and you can probably stop and you can get off your bike and, okay, what's here? But in general, this is probably a long way for me to say that I don't think, and maybe I get proven wrong, this is my theory right now, I'm recording this, like I said, 9 hours after this trailer. I think that the game is not open world in the traditional sense, like Breath of the Wild or Skyrim. I think that there are probably going to be these big open areas, and I'm going to need to pause it here. There are big open areas like this that have sporadic things to do, but in general, you're just meant to traverse from one place to another. And why not give her a bike that can be used anywhere in the game, but that is ideal for these sections? And then, by the way, we're building in combat. This flying thing, she can attack. Now, let's look at this attack, by the way. So she brings up, this is really cool, this little, like, I don't know if it's a disc, but whatever this thing is, pops up. And she is able to target enemies while on the bike. And this disc flies to this targeted enemy that's flying up here. Like, it's dope. It's freaking cool as hell. And then there are these other rolling things, and she does the Akira bike slide, which everyone has noticed, and I think is very cool. And it seems like when you do the slide, you get this kind of like attack little field or force field barrier that is kind of like what your attack is actually made out of when you slide. And that's what she uses to fight these things. Watch when she slides. Boom. See, that little kind of barrier pops up in front of her there. We'll get to that in a second. There's a lot to talk about in the desert here, you guys. So that's what's going on there. Some people have been saying, why not use the speed boost? This is just a really silly excuse to replace the speed boost. And like, we don't know that there isn't a speed boost. I mean, look at the size of this place, man. You're not speed boosting on Samus's feet as fast as she goes. You're not speed boosting like the Flash running across this place. The bike is the better way to traverse what I'm assuming are just open areas and not an entire full open world. So, will the speed boost show up? We have not had the speed boost in the first-person Prime games. We have had the screw attack, but not the speed boost. Maybe. If we're lucky, we get the speed boost. We saw it in Metroid Other M. I thought it was very cool in Other M. But I think that people so quick to complain about the bike and the desert and say that the speed boost is replaced by this and that they think this looks stupid. I don't think that that means any of that at all. I think both can coexist in the same game. Now, I want to point out in the background, there's a lot of great stuff to see in these background shots. I mean, this looks like maybe over here, a place that you can maybe enter this desert area from. Look at how far back in the distance you can see with this mountain back here, whatever this tower thing is. But it's important to note, I haven't made a direct comparison, but the tree, man, look at this big ass tree. If I can get it to stop right where I want it to. Let's see. And there, it didn't work. It didn't work. Sorry, guys. Come on. There we go. Look at this tree. This might be the big tree that we've seen in the prior trailers, and that the March trailer with the narrator mentioned she's transported to the mysterious planet Vuros with a giant tree at its center, or however he phrased that. And this is maybe that big tree, and we're clearly really far away, but it looks like a big-ass tree if you were to get up close to it. So I think that might be what we're seeing here, which again is lending to what I was saying at the beginning, that everything we see here are probably different environments around the tree on planet Vuros. So, now let's get to this section. We see the bike jumping back in the lightning, rainy section. We can do jumps. Now, I'm assuming there is up here. In prior Prime games, you would see like a secret, like a missile upgrade or something up here. So I'll be curious if this is a place that you can get up to later in the game. Maybe you can morph ball up here. Maybe it's just there for aesthetics, but I just wanted to point it out that it's here. Again, we can see more bridges. Here's a bridge in the background, and I do think there's one over here as well. Just like the one she's on here, riding the bike and hopping over this thing to get inside of this big tower, there's another one over here. Stylistically, the architecture and construction of this area reminds me of Skytown on Elysia from Metroid Prime 3. The way there are those zip wires, and there are the morph ball cannons, and different pathways that lead you from like floating section to floating section. That's kind of what this reminds me of. Again, just in terms of architecture and design. It might not feel that way once we actually play the game, but based on what we see in this trailer, that's kind of what I'm thinking and expecting. So now we get to another kick-ass shot. She comes in here. I love the hop. Give me the hop all day. Oh, I went back a little bit too far. The hop she does is just super cool. It's the same kind of concept and animation from when she gets out of her morph ball. You know, I just think that's very cool. Now, just to point out, she comes in here, something gets targeted over here, don't know what it is, it seems like it's automatically a target. You know, it's probably an enemy, because it seems like when you're on the bike maybe can automatically target things, and that's how she was attacking that flying thing in the desert, and maybe this is something you could shoot, and as she enters this area on the bike, maybe it's the bike that's targeting this. Now, she hops off, what I want to say here, this environment looks cool as hell. We got this lava flowing down here. Speed limited. I'm only just now knowing this, or noticing this. You know what I'm thinking this might be? Is when you come to inside sections like this, maybe the bike's default speed slows down. But when you're in the open desert areas, doesn't say speed limited, you can just go crazy fast, like F-Zero speeds. I'm just guessing, but, you know, it kind of makes sense when you see it, because why would it suddenly... Yeah, speed limited, because she's inside. So, I need to talk about the other big theory I have. This is a great shot to do so. I mentioned this in my reaction video, if you watch that. My current running theory, until I learn otherwise, is that the bike might be tied to this suit. Again, this is a suit with the psychic eye. It's that red color. It's got a very sleek design, similar to like the light suit from Metroid Prime 2. And I wonder if this is like, I don't know, the bike suit? Or maybe the Viola suit? Or some other weird name. But I just kind of have a feeling, because the design and the color of the bike, again, I'm colorblind, but I feel like this bike has the same design and like red sort of hues to it that I see on the suit. What if the bike doesn't just exist in the world, and it's not necessarily that you can summon it from where it is, but maybe this suit allows you to just pull a bike out of thin air. Like, it can just materialize a bike. When she hops off of it here, I looked for this, we don't see the bike disappear. She hops away from it, and then we don't see what happens to it. But I do want to point out, if we look up here, when she walks away from where she just hopped off the bike, pay attention to the map and her location on the map with that arrow. The map does not leave an indicator that the bike is still existing somewhere on the map, which is the kind of thing you might expect it to do. Like when you're on a horse in Breath of the Wild and you get off your horse, there's a horse indicator left in the world map for you to see where you left your horse. I don't see anything here showing an indicator that the bike was left behind, so I'm thinking it maybe disappears and she can materialize it as she needs. So let's watch. Up here, she hops off, she walks away, no bike. There was no bike left up there. So I think that it's interesting to note what we see there. So I'll let this play again. She hops off. This looks all very cool. Love this. We're inside. We're doing standard Metroid Prime stuff. We're not just riding bikes around. It's not a Metroid racing game like some people are complaining about. Again, and we're also inside in more traditional Metroid and Metroid Prime locations doing combat and puzzle solving. This is not a big open world game with an empty desert, okay? That is one section that is designed for the bike and vice versa. I'm just so sure of it, you guys. So let's relax and just let everything else be normal kick-ass Metroid stuff. Now, we come to some combat. We're shooting these cool enemies that, as far as I can see, are brand new. Oh, I got to talk about those guys in a second. But I do want to point out, we've seen this before. We're looking at the HUD, right? We can just see she has the missiles. We can see she has the missile ammo over here. This has been in prior footage, but I'm going to point out something else about that later. This looks like a big cannon, I'm noticing. I wonder what that's about. So we got a big cannon. Now, these dudes, I got really excited at these guys in my reaction, and that is because they really remind me of the Steam Lord. I couldn't remember the name off the top of my head in my reaction, but it's called the Steam Lord in Metroid Prime 3. They are these floating ghost-like Steam bots that control the other regular Steam bots. And as you defeat the regular Steam bots, when there's a Steam Lord present, the Steam Lord revives the Steam bots, and they're basically infinite enemies until you kill the Steam Lord. And when you look at these guys, and you look at what the Steam Lord looks like from Metroid Prime 3, tell me they don't look the same and feel the same. I just think that's what these are. And if you've watched any of my breakdowns and discussions since we first saw Metroid Prime 4 last year in June of 2024, I have been drawing so many comparisons to atmospheres and tones and visuals and ideas and concepts that seem ripped right out of Metroid Prime 3. More so than Primes 1 or 2. And this to me is just another one. I feel the connective tissue to Prime 3 very heavily in this game, including with these dudes right here. So, back to this. Fighting some more enemies. Okay, we get to this cool snowy area. We're gonna fight these wolves. This is like... Suddenly, she becomes Liam Neeson. This is Metroid Prime 4 The Gray. Stuck in the Siberian woods fighting giant snowy wolves. It's very cool. We can see a lot of cool stuff in the background here. In this shot of Samus. I mean, look at this. Can we ride across this? Is that a wolf up there? Looking at her from a distance? What is it? Look at that guy. Yeah. It's very cool. So, okay, we just see some cool comment. Now, this is important. This is important, guys. Are we paying attention? We're going to be paying attention. Now, let me try to find a better... I want to get a good shot. All right, we need to pay attention to the HUD because I double-checked, and unless I missed something, this is the first time we've seen anything down here. This is another weapon. We've got a missile, and we've got missile ammo. We've got what looks like a little flame, and we've got a secondary ammo indicator over here. This might have been in the footage. This actually might have been in the March Direct, the March Direct trailer that introduced the psychic abilities. So maybe this was here, and I forgot to touch on it. But I'm going to touch on it again here. We see this fire. We see this over here. These 3 dots, to me, it's just a psychic ability. It's the ability to do something with your psychic beam. Because what we've seen from the psychic abilities in that March trailer is the little 3 swirling dots. Specifically when you have the beam that you can, like, shoot and then control where it goes. That's what I think we're seeing here. And she's got, 70 out of 80 ammo or shots available. So I'm assuming, right on the D-pad for missiles, you're shooting your missile ammo. Left or down on the D-pad for this flame thing, this psychic ability, whatever it is. And here's your 70 out of 80 ammo for that. I think it's pretty cool to see this way. So, back to the gray. Okay, everything I have to pause, you guys. I'm so sorry. There's so much cool stuff to look at. This, to me, this is a Lemorne, okay? We've seen the Lemorne in the key art. This more kind of matching this white, ghostly-looking, smooth shape and color and the features here. This is a statue of a Lemorne. It doesn't seem to be the same as the one featured in that March Direct where she actually scans it and we learn the name. It says there's an ancient Lemorne statue. And then we see an apparition of one later in that same trailer. This, to me, here's my theory on this. Instead of Chozo statues that you're going to come across that house a new upgrade, maybe it's a Lemorne statue. So this is the snowy area where we're going all Liam Neeson and we're fighting these wolves. And in the snowy area, this is perhaps where she comes to get whatever upgrade, suit upgrade, visor upgrade, ability upgrade that these Lemorne statues provide to her. So, just a theory, but that's what I noticed here because this matches exactly the key art images of the Lemorne. And, again, every frame is something for me to stop on. Now we're seeing the grapple lasso, potentially, or the grapple voltage. So this right here, this action... Again, how many times am I going to have to say it when I review all of this Metroid Prime 4 footage? This is more Metroid Prime 3 stuff. Because in Metroid Prime 3, she uses the grapple lasso to grab levers and shields and pulls them off. And she uses the grapple voltage, and she can attach it to certain modes and certain energy-like housings where you need to either add energy to it or take energy away to open a lock or to open a door or to get access to something, to overload something to blow it up so that maybe like a door opens, to close a circuit or something. And that's what she does here. She uses, I guess, the grapple lasso, and she's pulling down on the left analog stick, and it's going to pull this lock and it's going to pop it open. This again is ripped directly out of Metroid Prime 3. Boom, lasso. Boom, voltage. Pulling down, opening up whatever that was. Morph ball stuff, crazy snow and wind. Here we go, baby. Coming to the end. Back to Silux. Look at our boy. This frickin' guy. What's going on here? The way this plays out, what a great shot this is. It kind of just confirms what I've been saying for so long. that Psylux will serve the same role within the game that Dark Samus did in Metroid Primes 2 and 3. He will be a force and a presence, the main antagonizing threat, following Samus through the journey. Maybe Samus is following him and will continue to run into him. Here he is in this location where maybe he's in control of this device, and I don't know, maybe there's something inside here. Maybe he's stealing something. You know, it starts to feel a little bit like Dark Samus going after Phazon, which is obviously not what's happening here, but we come across Psylux, and it's a showdown. The same way Samus shows down with Dark Samus in Primes 2 and 3. Now, I do want to call out... Whoops, we skipped ahead here. I want to call out something just pretty cool visually. This is the second time we've seen an image of them showing down, which is very cool. I just love the detail of the fact that we can see Psylux's reflection floating above her in her visor. I mean, like, he's, like, right there. I just think that's really neat. Watch. See? That's Psylux. I just think it's a cool touch, you know? So that's a bunch of stuff. I think I nailed everything I wanted to talk about. And so, of course, we'll stop right here. The last important thing, because I don't need to talk about the amiibo or any of that stuff. December 4th, baby. This game is the first week of December 2025. They did it. The Mad Lads did it. I always knew they could. I didn't think they would, but it turns out they did. This game is not October. It's not November. It's not delayed into 2026. This game is December 4th. So, I feel like I covered most of the bases that I wanted to cover in this. For 90 seconds worth of gameplay, I think it was a pretty thorough and long breakdown, right? I think I managed to pick apart just the things that I noticed, and maybe there's more to pick apart and notice later. Maybe other people find things that I didn't find, or think of ideas or theories that I didn't think of. It's a very exciting time. To have the release date? What? I still remember the day the game was shown off, in 2017. At the beginning of the Switch's life, and it's been such a journey. And, you know, I was doing YouTube before then. I did YouTube this whole time, and I kept talking about Metroid Prime 4, covered Metroid Dread, covered Samus Returns, Metroid Prime Remastered, all the way to the footage for Prime 4 last year, the reveal of the Switch 2 this year, the release of the Switch 2. And finally, we have a date, and it is hitting 2025, which is just very, very exciting. So, probably nothing else to say now. You know, again, the December thing, I've talked about it a few times. I would have liked it, actually, if they managed to squeeze it earlier, like maybe in November. I can't believe Hyrule Warriors is the game that got that November 6th date. That is insane to me. It's cool. I'm not, like, complaining. But I actually thought, because they kept saying winter, I started to realize, like, winter really is a January through March kind of thing. Like, it's only the last, like, 10 days or whatever, something like that, of a year. So when they said winter, I was like, they're not going to put it at the end of the year. They're going to put it in the beginning of 2026. I started to believe that. But nope. They're releasing it on November 6th. Like, it's just insane. The same month as Kirby. So they're giving us a 4-game whammy, even though there's only 2 that I'm going to play. Pokemon goes right into Hyrule Warriors, goes right into Kirby Air Riders, goes right into Metroid Prime 4. Whoa! I mean, it's a great launch year for the Switch 2, considering that it's launched in June, halfway through the year. And it's a great fall holiday lineup, for sure. But it's a lot. It's almost overkill. Especially for anyone who plans on playing all 4 games. I'm just playing Hyrule Warriors and Metroid's all I actually care about. I already I took 2 weeks off for the release day. So I put in my PTO for the release day. It's going to be a great time in the first half of December, man. I can't wait. But yeah, it's just a wild choice. So at the end, I'll just double down. I know that there are complaints about the bike is weird. It's a goofy attempt to make her seem cool. The whole game is open world, and the open world looks barren and boring. And just like I said in the breakdown, you're not meant to use the bike everywhere. I think it's more like a fast travel. And I think that there are only going to be open areas that the bike is ideal to use in. Sure, we're probably going to use it in some other sections of the game here and there. But I think it's mostly for a section like what the desert looks like. And I don't think the desert is meant to be like Breath of the Wild or Grand Theft Auto, where you're supposed to be on foot looking at every little thing. Not to mention, that section in particular was a desert. And deserts don't have things to look at every 10 feet. It's a freaking desert. So, like, people have just not allowed themselves to think clearly about this. And it's kind of worse if you are a Metroid fan or a Metroid Prime fan who already knows the flow and cadence and rhythm of these games. Because if you do, then I think you should have been able to sniff out what I've sniffed out. You know, it's only a theory, but I think it's just open sections that the bike is meant for, and that most of the game is still going to be normal Samus platforming, action, shooting, boss fighting, puzzle solving, morph balling. That's probably still going to be like 80 to 90% of the game, but here's this badass Samus bike to use for some of these cool open zones, and that's all new. We've never had a bike or a vehicle that Samus can use just on her own, and we've never had areas or zones as big as what the desert seems to be. What if there's a volcano section that is big, open, and meant for the bike, that has more stuff to look at and see? You know, everyone is just so focused on the fact that it's a desert, which is just sand as far as the eye can see. So there's a lot of people, I think, not thinking clearly. When the game comes out, we'll learn the truth. Or if they give us a Nintendo Direct and actually explain all this in detail, that will give us the truth. And so maybe all of my assumptions about the game and the bike and the desert are wrong. But I'm going to be honest, I feel pretty good about it. You know, I just feel like I'm onto something, and that all the shooting and combat and action we've seen in all of the footage up until today is probably what the game is actually like. You're fighting space pirates and monsters and bosses, and you're puzzle solving, and you're scanning things. That's the game, not the bike in the desert. I think it's just a couple of sections of the game. So, I'm beating a dead horse. This is meant to be a positive thing. This is an exciting time. The game looks great. This footage looks great. We've seen new stuff, a new vehicle, a bike, open zones, new things to do. Like, there's a lot of new areas we've never seen before. Planet Vuros is going to be an incredible area and an incredible planet to explore and to walk across. I cannot freaking wait. So, I'm going to wrap this up. This is my analysis. Tell me what you guys think, what things you found and didn't find, and what you think of my breakdown. And what an amazing time we live in. Thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.